we go. Okay, so welcome again, everybody, and thank you for showing up. So I'm gonna skip over here. Okay, so just before I dive in, I know you guys all know me, but I do have a couple of new people, and they are going to, or a couple few new people, and they are going to be listening to the recording. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of context and how I got into this gig. So my name is Kim. I'm a holistic nutrition consultant. I'm also a life coach and a metabolic balance coach. Um, so my background is in animal nutrition. So studied animal science, worked as an agronomist for a few years. And what I saw during this period was basically that the business of keeping animals healthy, productive, fertile, prevention is everything. All right. Have you ever heard the expression follow the money?
Yes.
Yes, so if you, for farmers, if you follow the money and, for regarding farmers and the professionals that serve them, they are putting all of their money, their time, their energy into diet and prevention because it works. Okay. So animal nutrition didn't really light my fire. Fast forward a few years, and I co-owned a retirement home with my mom and my sister. So that was a lovely experience. It was a steep learning curve. But what I saw during this period, so during this period, my dad, so this is a picture of my dad on the screen with Kiana. During this period, my dad was also going through some really serious health issues, in and out of hospitals. So we really saw how much stress it put on the family, specifically on mom. So that coupled with what I was seeing with the seniors was a real eye opener for me, right? No one was talking about prevention. So it was all about putting out fires, suppressing symptoms, usually with medication. So someone complained of constipation, they got a pill. Somebody complained of heartburn, they got a pill. Somebody couldn't sleep, they got a pill, right? That was really my aha moment. And that was kind of what led me to study holistic nutrition. So I'm saying all this because my eye has always been on prevention. Basically, yeah, that has always kind of been what I've been after. Except that, so this is a picture you see on the screen is a picture of Yui actually hanging up my sign. So when I did start my practice, no one was calling me for prevention. No one was like, "Hey, I want to rock my golden years. Can you help?" No. The number one problem that folks were reaching out for was weight loss. I never set out to become a weight loss coach. But what I started seeing was that as people did the work to lose the weight, so we're doing this in a healthy way, right? We're balancing blood sugar levels, we're streamlining digestion, we're improving elimination. Some of those surrounding issues like inflammation, fatigue, hormonal, metabolic health, all kind of started improving. So weight loss kind of became the entry point, right? It brought people to the conversation. And I kind of consoled myself that I was still fulfilling my prevention mission, even though it was a little bit indirect. So I became really good at helping people lose weight. But then what I noticed was that some of my clients were starting to regain the weight, right? And that was devastating. So again, I never set out to be a weight loss coach, and I kind of don't like even associating with that icky kind of diet like diet culture. Okay. So like I said, when clients started coming back, folks that were putting the weight back on, that was really awful. So these were the people that had the tools and they were bumping up against themselves, right? So that prompted a whole new journey. That's what led to the life coaching and just basically understanding a little bit more what makes people tick. So started focusing on mindset, limiting beliefs, habit change, and really, really making sure that my clients are well equipped to maintain their new healthy habits. So that's it. So no one has ever hated themselves into a body that they love. We don't take care of things that we don't love. And in my generation, and maybe my mom's generation as well, or maybe this is just my family, but self-love is sometimes seen as a bad word. Um, often clients fear that if they let off on the shitty self-talk, that kind of hypercritical self-talk, they are going to go off the rails and lose control completely. And this is really a false belief. So if anyone has kids or husband or even a close family member, you know what happens when we nag and harp and remind incessantly, right? It has the effect of pushing people away. We do the same thing with ourselves when we're being super critical, constantly beating ourselves up. So just a little overview of what we're going to cover today. So the first thing is we're going to talk about the inner critic. So if you don't think you have an inner critic, you do. It's just that yours is maybe extra sneaky. So everyone has this inner judge kind of thing going on. We're going to talk about your deep why and get really clear on goals and goal setting. We're going to talk about the all or nothing mindset and how perfectionism is really a trap that can keep you stuck. We're going to talk about how to change those habits. So really get in there. I've got a handy guide and Kiana has the link. So she's going to pop that in the chat. But don't worry, I'm also going to include the guide in the follow-up email. So I'm going to send everyone a recording and you're going to get this in a follow-up email. So if you have trouble with the chat, don't stress. What else? So the guide is called the craving. It's called a craving tool. So you'll see it's pretty juicy. And we're going to talk about making peace with making peace and setting goals that are realistic and kind. And then finally, we're going to finish off with just some real practical things that you can dive into right away. So transform your inner critic. Now, so in case you're not clear on what I'm referring to here, our inner critic is that voice in our head that points out our flaws, that doubts, that tells us that we're not good enough, even if it's not true. Um, have you ever looked back at an old picture of yourself and thought, damn, why was I being so hard on myself? That's the inner critic. So being hypercritical with ourselves is just a habit. Unfortunately, there is a lot of cultural conditioning around this. So we're aiming for this very narrow and sometimes unrealistic body ideal. So think, Barbie, Disney princess, social media filters, all of these things. So that comes into the picture. But basically, if you are stuck in the habit of self-pounding, being slightly vicious and mean with yourself, your habits are going to be a reflection of someone that doesn't really like themselves. You may think that by playing boot camp sergeant with yourself, you're going to be able to shame yourself into behaving properly, but it never works. So negative self-hating thoughts lead to negative self-hating behaviors. The other thing is we tend to make self-appreciation conditional on achieving the thing, right? So another way to put this is the I'll be happy when syndrome. So if you've been practicing being unhappy with yourself, if that's your habit, once you reach your goal, chances are you're going to experience about 2 minutes of satisfaction, and then you're going to find something else to nitpick about. So basically, if we can't be happy at the weight that we're at, we are not magically going to be happy at once we reach our goal weight. It's kind of like using a muscle that's shrunk from lack of use, okay? So I need my clients in self-care, self-compassion, self-love mode before we even begin this process, right? So the antidote to that, um, so we know that being hypercritical with ourselves is a habit. It doesn't serve us. We need to rewire our brains. We need to get out of this loop, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, so I'm just going to read through these things and then we'll dive in and get a little bit more specific. So you're going to notice. So that's when you begin to self-criticize. So, and this is going to take practice, especially if you don't think that you have a self-critical voice, okay? Then once you start noticing that critical voice, you're going to start to pay attention to what you feel in your body. That feeling in your body is going to be your cue. So in that instant, you're going to flip the script. You're going to have a comeback ready. So let me give you an example, my own scale analogy. Okay, so I mentioned this at the beginning. I'm no different than anybody else. I love food. I have a huge appetite. I have to watch my weight. And so when I started diving into this work, this is when this all kind of became really apparent. So if I stood on the scale and the number wasn't what I wanted it to be, I would immediately, that boot camp sergeant kind of attitude voice would come in. Okay, you need to hit it hard. You need to stop all the snacks. No more wine, no more bread, no more carbs. You're going to run every day. It felt so heavy and depressing. It would literally cloud my whole day. I felt it like a real sinking, heavy feeling in my chest. And it's so familiar. I could just talking about it, I can feel it right now. Okay. Invariably, what would happen is I'd start rebelling and crave the things that I wasn't supposed to be having. And it was getting like I said, it was just so apparent. Once I started tuning into this, it became so apparent. Okay. This self-criticizing is exactly why so many people hate weighing themselves and have a toxic relationship to the scale. All right. There's a lot to unpack there. We're not going to get into it for this with this presentation. But basically, if weight loss is part of your goal, stepping on the scale is going to be a really good moment to tune in to what your internal narrative is saying and what's happening in your body when you're in that hypercritical mode. Okay. And again, that feeling is going to become your cue that you've been hijacked by your critic. Okay. So, just when we're talking about flipping the script, basically, I want you to have a comeback, to come up with a comeback whenever you notice this familiar narrative going on, right? It's really important that your comeback is believable. So you have to find something that you really like about yourself, and you're going to focus on that whenever you notice that critical self-talk. If you can't come up with something that you like about yourself, can you find a little bit of gratitude in anything that your body has done for you? If you've made babies, has it helped you overcome disease or heal from something? Okay. So again, folks, this is about rewiring our brains and breaking that pattern of self-judgment. So I'm just going to check in with everybody because I know I came in hot and heavy with this stuff. It's just, I started really intense. Everybody okay? Yeah, are you still there? Okay. So change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. This is really unfortunate, but it's true. It's partly why prevention is such a tough sell. We we don't like to address what we can't see, but basically you're going to really need to get clear, or you're going to need to get really clear on your pain points. Okay, so this again, this isn't easy work, but it's really necessary. So this is journaling exercise that serves to really help clients anchor their goals. So when I work with clients, I send them these questions. They have to keep it with their meal plan in their binder with their tracking notes. And the reason for that is because after the newness wears off, doing this work can start to feel a little blah, a little bit pointless, okay? And that's perfectly normal. It's really normal that our motivation dips. That's when we need to refocus, and that's when you need to go back to your journaling, okay? So you're going to get this on a digital file or old-fashioned journal, but you can't skip this part. So you're going to write out your answers as if you were speaking to an old friend or to a child that you love. You're going to be kind, and this will be for your eyes only. So I also don't want you to censor yourself, okay? So what will happen if you stay on your current path? What will happen if you achieve your goals? What's the feeling that you're after? And then you're going to practice connecting to that feeling before you reach your goal. So what's the feeling you're after? This is a little bit of a tough one. Let me Sometimes this is a tough one for clients, okay? So let me just give you an example of a conversation that I had with a client. We're going to call her Judy. I don't have any Judy, so we're going to call her Judy. So I'm asking Judy, so what's your goal? Judy says, well, I want to lose 30 pounds. Um, I said, well, why? And she says, well, for health, duh. So I say, well, Judy, your health markers are really great. What else? Like what? I don't get it. She says, well, my daughter's wedding is coming up. I said, well, okay, your daughter's going to get married regardless of how much you weigh. I just want to feel good and I want to feel more confident in my body. Usually they start getting a little pissed at this point. Bingo, that's the feeling. Feel good, feel more confident in my body. Those are the feelings that you're after. Again, practice connecting to those feelings before you reach your goal. Okay? So, is it more confidence? Is it freedom from feeling like you have to hide your body? Is it feeling more sexy? Is it more pride, more happiness? Whatever it is, okay? But basically, you have to practice what you're after now. Otherwise, remember what we said before, it's going to be like using a muscle that has atrophied from lack of use. This isn't easy. There's going to be a little bit of fake it till you make it, but it's really, really essential. So, the all or nothing mindset, this is another really big trap. Um, if I can't do it right, I won't do it at all. Go big or go home. I'm an all or nothing person. I'm on again, off again. These are all just different ways of saying, of talking about this all or nothing or perfectionist mindset. Okay. This kind of mindset is completely unsustainable and unrealistic. Okay. It just doesn't work. So there's something that's called the abstinence violation effect. When you deny yourself something, the pressure builds and builds and builds until it blows, and it always blows. Okay? So basically, resisting always leads to worse, more intense desire. We can resist for short periods of time, but it is not sustainable. It's not a sustainable strategy. What we resist persists. Okay? And the all or nothing or that perfectionist mindset is also a fast track to the fuck it's. We all know what the fuck it's are. When we can't do it perfectly, we fall off the wagon, we go into fuck it mode. Okay. So a little bit of tough love here that, so adopting this kind of mindset is actually a really sneaky way of letting yourself off the hook and not doing the thing. Okay. It can be a disguised cop out. So, what's important with building new habits is going to be consistency, not doing it perfectly. You will all, it's impossible to do it perfectly. So, never, you are never going to achieve that perfection. There are always going to be amusement park weekends. The key is to shake it off and just get back on. All right. So, how habits are born. So, habits are actually a good thing, right? Habits are, we build habits basically to allow us to kind of go into autopilot, save mental energy for important tasks. So, think about driving, think about tying your shoelaces, logging into your email account. After you've done those things enough times, they just become second nature. You don't have to think about it. We just do it on autopilot, right? Save mental energy for the more important things. So habits are good, help us, kind of run things more efficiently. And the goal is to build more helpful habits and start undoing the unhelpful habits. So where am I now? I'm losing. Okay, zoom this over. Okay, so now we want to get really clear on our habits. So particularly those bad habits, the ones that we want to break. Okay, so how long have you had the habit? What are your triggers? So, what sets you off? What's the trip switch? Is it stress? Is it boredom? Is it the shitty self-talk? Because that triggers a lot of misery in a lot of people. Um, then what's the behavior? So, what do you proceed to do? Is it chips? Is it chocolate? Is it cookies? Is it a batshit crazy weekend? What is it that you do? Okay. And then finally, what is the reward? So what are you getting out of it? Sometimes this is hard to figure out, okay? Um, for some people, binging can be a way to numb. For some people, eating cookies in the afternoon is just a way to deal with their boredom. For some people, the taste of cake feels better than feeling their feelings. So it's about getting clear on that sequence, that trigger behavior reward. Okay. Wait a second. Here we go. Yeah. So breaking habits. Um, okay. So we can break habits at any point in the chain. So if I go back to this, we can break it at the trigger spot that I'm pointing here. We can break it at the trigger phase, or we can break it at the reward phase. Okay. So if your trigger is seeing the drive-through, then maybe you need to take a different route for a while. If it's seeing the cookies in the pantry, you stop by. Okay. So Atomic Habits author, James Clear, so the book Atomic Habits, James Clear says that people that are successful at changing habits aren't smarter or stronger or have more willpower. The difference is that they set up their environment for success. So this is a big one. So that's those are examples of breaking the habit at the trigger. Okay. Dealing with chronic stress is needs to be a priority if stress is a trigger. And honestly, who isn't triggered by stress? So we can't underestimate stress, definitely. Another great way to break a habit is to pay attention to how rewarding or unrewarding it is. So this is called building your disenchantment database. So basically what that means is you're going to be mentally linking a behavior, a food, a behavior with how it makes you feel afterwards. Okay? Generally speaking, for most of our bad habits, the more we pay attention, the more disenchanted we get. This is really like a superpower here, okay? Once you repeatedly notice that a specific reward is actually not that rewarding, you're just naturally going to start breaking up with that habit without the need for massive willpower or self-pounding, okay? Let me tell you about my gummy bear analogy. So I wrote a newsletter on this week. So some of you, if you're on my mailing list, you would have read this. So I love gummy bears. Uh, was talking about gummy bears with somebody one day, and that was the trigger. So I went and I bought a bag of Haribo gummy bears. They're so damn good. Ate the whole bag in the evening, probably watching TV, like, and then, so this was quite a few years ago. This was when I was studying holistic nutrition, so I was in the study mode. And the next day, I just couldn't get going. I couldn't make my brain work. I was foggy. I was just like in a fog. I kept on going back for more coffee. I was like, what the hell? Until it clicked. I made the connection. So the coloring agents and the sugar and all the crap that's in the gummy bears, it didn't do good things for my brain. Okay. Basically, just paying attention to how unproductive and fuzzy I felt started kind of pruning that habit and made them much easier to avoid. Okay. Once that hierarchy shifts, there's no going back. The food affair ends. So this is just a lovely kind of gentle way of going about breaking habits. Okay. So I created this craving tool. Kiana put it in the chat before. And again, I'm going to send it to you. But the craving tool is basically to help you build your disenchantment data bank. Okay, this is not original work. This is based on solid research work by someone, Dr. Judson Brewer. He's the author of The Hunger Habit, which is an excellent book that I highly recommend. So what you should also know is that it's going to take between 10 and 15 times of using this tool to really break a habit. So this is good news. If you've been binging on something or overeating for years, it doesn't have to take 20 years to change, okay? Retrospectives. So this is juicy. Basically, What this is when you slip up, and if you have a little binge and you eat all the cookies and forget to pay attention in the moment, it's okay. You can reflect back on how it made you feel. So this looking back or the retrospective is just as powerful as paying attention in the moment, right? Again, skip the self-pounding and harvest the learning. So I always say to clients, look, if you've ever tried anything to lose weight in the past, this is gold. There are no failures, there's only learning. Okay. And the last one, self-kindness, being a little bit less self-critical with ourselves and a little more kind actually cools down the part of the brain that lights up when cravings hit. Okay. Taking a moment to practice a little bit of self-kindness or gratitude is essential in these moments. So this could just be a phrase. Remember the flip the script exercise we talked about earlier, but this is an essential part of the formula. Okay? How's everybody doing over there? Because you're on my other screen. Yes. Okay, I see thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, this is fun. So this is about setting realistic goals. Um, so we've got the effort axis, we've got the results axis. Let's start at, okay, I'm going to go over here. Let's start at this guy here who is eating whatever, okay? Eating for convenience, eating for affordability, taste, hunger. Inevitably, so this is basically what teenagers do. Inevitably, the results start showing up, okay? Whether it's weight gain, digestive issues, inflammation, whatever. So we know the results here are health issues. Okay, so now this person is cleaning up their act and they're moving up here to 80% healthy. This is great. So maybe this is just a little more moderation, cleaning up the diet, more veggies, less processed food. It's all good. Look at the massive shift. So compared to the amount of effort, look at the improvement or the results. Okay. So there's huge results for a relative, like for, you know, reasonable effort. Let's put it that way. Now, let's say someone wants to lose the last 25 pounds. Okay, or not last 25. Let's say lose 25 pounds. So now we have to tighten things up a little bit. You might have to cut down on the bread, on the wine, limit the restaurant meals. We're being careful. Now we start to see that the effort and the results are kind of equal. Okay, it's starting to change a little bit. Now let's go right up to the last 2 pounds. Okay, this is going to move you into swimsuit model territory. Look at the amount of effort that is required and look at the result that it gets you. Okay, so the red bar that you see here, and this is all my data. Okay, this red bar is where most people is the represents the level of effort that most people are willing to put in for a sustained amount of time. Okay. The problem is that unfortunately, a lot of people expect to be over here in swimsuit model territory. Okay. For the record, swimsuit models make up about, I've got it here, 0.000037% of the world population, according to ChatGPT. That's 1 in 2.7 million people. But that is still kind of the ideal that we're imposing on ourselves. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but you get it, right? So you can see now how that disappointment, the self-criticism, that chronic dissatisfaction comes about when we're always hoping for results that may not be aligned with the amount of effort that we're willing to put in. Okay. So it's just feeding that feeling of discontentment with ourselves. And this is so pervasive with women. Okay. Let me just say that health and weight are not synonymous. It is possible to be 30 pounds overweight and still have amazing longevity, energy, vitality. They're not directly correlated. So basically, all of that was to say that you have two choices. Either you select the effort that you are prepared to give and you make peace with the results, or you select the results that you want. If you want to be a swimsuit model, that is absolutely fine, but then you need to make peace with the effort that is going to be required. Okay? The key is to make peace. We need to stop the habit of always being unhappy with ourselves. This is about owning it, practicing being confident, happy, sexy, whatever, in the body that reflects the amount of effort that you're prepared to give. Okay? Yeah. Okay, um, so kind of practical things that you can start doing right away. Start quieting that inner critic. You're going to start just by noticing the inner critic. And then, and you're going to see, this is mind blowing how much shit talk we can give ourselves. Uh, Journal on those pain points and connect to your deep why. Okay. You're going to save your journaling for when that motivation dips because it's normal. It will diminish. You're going to use that craving tool to start pruning away at the bad habits. And keep in mind, it's going to take about 10 or 15 times of using that craving tool to really break a habit for good. I just want to say a word here about processed food addiction. So this is really a thing. So processed food is nuts. It's engineered to be addictive. It's 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 made by these incredibly highly trained, like uh, Harvard, MIT trained food chemists. It's an incredibly lucrative industry, and it's entirely built on making you come back for more. Okay. This one kills me. Processed food actually lights up the same dopamine reward pathways in our brain as drugs like cocaine and heroin. Okay. So if the ingredient list lists words that you can't pronounce, that are as long as your arm, if the food can't go bad or doesn't go bad, it's likely not very good for you. Okay. If someone wants to take a deeper dive, I've got a great podcast that I can send you. And then the last thing is cooking and meal prepping. I'm kind of getting off the mindset topic here, so I'm not going to spend very much time, but this is such a pillar habit, folks. If you have healthy food prepared, you are going to eat healthy food. If you don't prioritize this, you are going to stay stuck in the same rut. Okay. I just had to put it out there because it's too big. And I hear this all the time. Um, so I've summarized, I have a blog that summarizes everything that I kind of want to talk about cooking and meal prepping and all of my tips as far as that goes. So I'm going to send that. Actually, Kiki can pop it in the chat. And I will also include it in the follow-up email with the recording. Okay. So in the blog, I talk about how to break it up, the Sunday trap. So basically avoid putting all your meal prepping into Sunday because that always blows. Anyways, like I said, you can go and check it out in the blog. Okay, so just to wrap up now, um, I want to say something about trauma. So if you have experienced trauma in your past, and this might be messing with your success, this is going to require a little bit more unpacking, and you definitely will need to talk with an experienced therapist. Okay. Self-kindness. So watch your self-talk. Self-kindness can feel really scary. It might make you feel like you're going to lose your edge, like you're going to lose your self-control if you're not constantly nagging and punishing yourself, punishing. You are going to connect to your deep why and anchor your new habits. When things start to get boring, dull, you're going to be able to go back to your journaling. We're going to talk about, or not talk about, you're going to build new habits. So consistency over perfection. Building new habits is going to require consistency. Perfectionism leads to the fuck-its. Willpower is more of a myth than a usable mental muscle. Okay. Build the disenchantment data bank. So again, to break a habit, repeated observations are where it's at. Okay. So that's what's going to lead to lasting change. Kindness towards ourselves, cools down the part of the brain that lights up when cravings strike. Okay? You're going to decide on the amount of effort that you are realistically prepared to give and own the results. Set yourself up for success. So we just talked briefly about prioritizing cooking, meal prepping, and getting the junk out of the house, staying away from processed food as much as possible. And the last thing I need to say is you really have to acknowledge that this is all a process. So I've dumped a lot of information here. This is obviously not something that you're going to accomplish in a weekend. This is really that process, all right? So that's it, folks. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll take a few minutes for